Alright, sorry about that. It was fucking hardcore tweaking. I hope everything is better now. Can everyone hear me? Okay, I need to like retweet out this, so give me a second to do this. Oh my gosh, what is it? Alright, stop it. Go away. Hit the like button. Yeah, thanks. Thanks. It's one of those days where absolutely nothing goes right. Which, I mean, I should be used to by now, but whatever. Okay, I'm gonna go redo all my tweet shit. I hope everyone's having a good night. Okay. Okay, sorry, I'm like reposting the link and everything so people know. Okay, delete that tweet. Switch over to the other account. What's up, everyone? Sorry about the first tweaking incident. It's ow, fuck off me. So I left my window open to let my studio air out because it was so fucking hot in here earlier. And now there's all these bugs that were like flocking to my light. Okay. Do 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 do. Okay. Now let's go to channel posts. I already posted an update in the stream Discord. Ah, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. I've been having like tech issues all day, man. It's driving me crazy. I don't know what the hell's going on with this world, but it's like it's on my last nerves. Was it 108 there too? I'm pretty sure it got that hot. I hate taking cold showers. I actually took a cold shower because I'm like, it is too fucking hot. And then I laid down to sleep before Flashcast. I ended up oversleeping by about 20 minutes, and then I woke up and the intro for Flashcast was just starting. So I was like, okay, cool. Okay, cool. Yeah, computers don't like high heat. Yeah, I know it. I have like my fan blowing directly onto the computer, and like computer has like fans inside. So I was trying to keep it as cool as possible. Like I don't even have the fan on me. I have the fan on the computer. So I try my best. It's 32 people in here. Well, welcome. Hopefully we don't have as many glitches right now. If anyone has good recommendations for like good computer speakers, could you email that to me? Because my computer speakers, they're too fucking low. And it's weird because they'll usually be fine on anything else, but all of a sudden now I've just noticed how low they are. Like I have trouble hearing anything. It's really annoying. All right, trying to get this up so I can see the comments and everything. I just got tired all of a sudden. I think it's my irritation with the tech issues. Wow, the stream has already been flagged as limited. That's fun. That's fun. No headphones. Well, I don't want to wear headphones when I'm painting because one, it gets in my way. Two, I want to have like something playing in the background so you guys can listen to it too. And so I wish I had better speakers. Let's see. It could be your audio settings. I've tried everything. Like my main manual computer speakers, they're literally all the way up. So, I don't know. It's the Central Valley. It's usually hot in the summer. I'm not in the Central Valley. That's where my parents live. That's where I grew up, but I don't live in the Central Valley anymore. I live in Southern California. Okay, let me adjust my camera. Usually when I have glitches, once I restart my computer, everything goes back to being better. Okay. So now camera on. Let me switch my mic. Oh, damn it. Let me switch my microphone real fast. Okay. So here's like a gold leafed one, and then I have gold ones for that. So it probably doesn't seem like the biggest difference, but let me get this out of the way. Let's show. So this is like the regular, like rustic looking one, and then look at that compared to this. I don't know. I think you see the difference, or should I just say fuck it, have them all be the rustic one? I don't know. I like the gold. I think it's different. But the rustic one, they'd all be like uniform. But I ordered silver ones, and I want to see how like the silver looks with it. I don't know. Can you guys even tell like the difference? Or is it just me? Kind of like it. I'm really excited for the silver little corner pieces to get here so I can see how those ones look. But I like this. I think it's I'm very proud that I found this and was like, oh, this will work perfectly for what I want to do. Let me find. I just had a painting. Oh, here it is. Let's see. I kind of dig the gold. Here's a silver one. I don't know. Maybe it'll be like too much to have it match it, but I like it just like this, you know. I think it adds a lot to the piece in and of itself. Like it looks fancy. If that makes sense. I don't know. What do you guys think? Is this better, or do you guys like it better when it's just the painting? Do you think it looks better with the frame or without the frame? I don't know. I think it pulls everything together with the frame. But that's just me. Oh, I really like the silver right now. A lot better. Hard to tell on camera. Oh, is my camera shitty? I'm sorry. Frame. I like the frame. Oh yeah, let me ask in the poll. Okay, there's a poll. Hmm. 90% say frame, 10% say no frame. Well, if you get one, then you don't have to have the frame. You can just take it off. All right, let's see. 94. Also, guys, if you haven't smashed the like button, please smash the like button. I love Scotch. Thank you for the $2 super chat. I appreciate that. 84. Oh no, changes. There's 44 people watching and only 19 votes. Let me know. I'm procrastinating on starting this. Let's see, frame. 24 votes. 89 say frame. All right, so I'm just going to go with that. A majority of people like frames. Interesting. Boy, thank you for the super chat, my dude. Thank you, Tony Stark. I appreciate that. Let's see. Let me pin this. Please smash the like button if you guys haven't already. There's 49 people watching. Okay, let's go pull up some YouTube documentary. I know you guys don't want to watch Chris Chan, so we won't watch Chris Chan. even though I was learning a lot. Okay, let's see. I was watching the true crime or real crime. Okay. Let's see. Maybe we could do Australia crime stories, kidnapping, real crime. Let's see. Psychopathic killers. Let's go to that playlist and find one from that playlist that we haven't watched. Christian, what the fuck? Yeah, there's a 66-part documentary on Christian I was watching, and a lot of people vetoed. Let's see. Oh, I don't know why. I feel like Russell Hall would love this one. It says The Monster That Kept Little Girls in Dungeons. We're going to watch that one. Okay, here is the link to this. Okay, so this is the documentary that I pulled up. Yeah, or is it too low? Oh, Jesus. Oh, wow. That's crazy. I thought this was art talk. If you guys aren't familiar, I like to watch documentaries while I paint, so that way I have something to listen to. Lovely. Uh, let's see. Vivo, thank you for that. Hey, Anna, thanks for that Ahsoka Tano art print. Oh, well, thanks for purchasing it. Miner's icon. Anna, Moko, you spelled my name wrong. Anna, start painting a buttocks. No. Can you guys hear everything okay? Ugh. She may be muted. I know you were asleep. We missed you on Jackson. Oh, thanks for the super chat. Can you hear me? Ooh, my photographer just sent me more photos. Ugh, psycho. Oh, that sucks. They were so close. Oh my god, I haven't been filming this. I'm so stupid. Oh well. There's a bug that just fried and it fucking stinks in here now. Is that 7 houses? Switching stuff around. microphone pad. Oh, oh, dang it, my camera got disconnected. Come on. Let's see if I can fix this. Okay, your kids are gonna have serious psychological trauma though. There we go. Right.
That's psycho. Ugh. Tulip is looking at me. Tulip. God, they made me testify. the hell is this? Okay. Let's go back. Oh shit, you can't hear it? Steven or Steve, you can't hear the documentary. Damn it! So you guys didn't hear anything. Let's see. Damn it, that's irritating. Okay, well. So you just heard me making comments at nothing? That's irritating. I like this comment from earlier. She probably won't notice until the episode is over. The chat is getting read as much as the one on Flashcast. I'm sorry. Oh, okay. Oh, can you guys hear her little barks? Oh, do you hear her little barks? Oh, so sweet. Oh, princess. Stop. What are you doing? It's fine. There's nothing out there. It was funny though. Choo, stop it. Okay, can you guys hear this one? Put a 1 if you can hear this. Nope. Okay, then let's try something. Okay, now can you hear it?
Attic flat, the true horror of the discovery became apparent.
We found a corpse. We found 2 corpses.
Can you
We
hear it?
found 3 corpses. We have found 4 corpses.
Yes.
It was a huge story,
No
because things
echo or
like this
anything,
don't
right?
exactly happen often in Hamburg.
A man named Fritz Honka had been murdering women and dismembering their bodies in his home for the past 5 years. He claimed that Jack the Ripper had told him to do it.
I think it was simply crimes of opportunity, but with a horrible edge. He showed no compassion for the victims. He didn't respect their bodies or feel remorse, clearly. He just cut them up.
Fritz Honka had carved his name in history as one of the world's most evil killers.
What's going on? To be crazy, girl.
The brutal murders of 39-year-old Fritz Honka left the whole of West Germany reeling. When a fire ripped through his apartment block on the 17th of July 1975, out of the ashes, the butchered remains of 4 women were revealed, hidden away in Honka's attic. Nobody knew they'd been missing from the streets of Hamburg. It was a shocking crime scene, even for the hardened murder squad. The lead investigators on the case were Jürgen Fieler and Karl Priess.
They told us where the body parts were. So inside the building, we went up to the attic, and there were 2 flats. Mr. Honka's flat and another one. And then there was a toilet and a loft. And in this loft were the body parts.
Und in diesem Bodenraum lagen die Leichenteile.
Wir standen vor der Tür und dann kam
We were standing outside the door when a small man walked up the stairs. The flat he lived in was completely filled with smoke. It was right next to the attic that had caught fire.
Dachboden, wo es gebrannt.
I just happened to be standing right by the front door of his flat, and he goes, "What's going on here?" "As you can see, there's been a fire," I said. "Oh," he said, "that's really bad. Looks like I won't be able to live here anymore." I then asked him, "Who has the key to this attic room and who owns it?" To which he replied, "This is my attic room, and I am the only one who's got access to it."
Dieser Dachboden.
And in that moment, there were reasonable grounds to suspect him of a crime. Consequently, we took him to the offices of the police headquarters at Berliner Tor.
Daraufhin haben wir ihn an die Dienststelle gebracht, ins Präsidium am Berliner Tor.
The story of this elusive serial killer begins over 80 years ago. Fritz Honka was born into a working-class family in Leipzig, East Germany, on the 31st of July, 1935.
Er hatte 8 Geschwister. Das Verhältnis zu seinem
He had 8 siblings. The relationship with his father was very difficult. He mentions an incident where his father supposedly wanted to kill him, and the connection to his mother was also rather cold. When he was 11 years old, she left the family, so he always had a rather crushing relationship with his parents.
Ja, sehr belastetes Verhältnis zu seinen Eltern.
Die Kinder sind alle weg.
All the children were given away, which will have had quite an effect on him.
After his father died in 1946, 11-year-old Honka was left to grow up in an
1946.
orphanage. His childhood
I
was
wonder
far from
why.
ideal.
I think he had quite a hard time.
Are they going to
growing
mention
up.
that at
These
all?
were quite turbulent times in
I don't know
Germany.
what was going on in Germany.
But
in
for a young lad who
1946.
was considerably shorter than his peers, he didn't always fit in very well at school, and that made him a target for bullies. So he was always the brunt of someone else's joke. So I don't think he had a very easy time of it at all.
After leaving school, Honka began work as a bricklayer's apprentice, but it didn't last long. In 1951, age 16, he fled from communist East Germany and headed west.
Dann ist hier nach Westdeutschland gekommen.
He then came over here to West Germany and worked in the farming industry before relocating to Hamburg.
Are they not going to mention?
And here in Hamburg, he worked for a security service
We're
company
just
as
going
a
to
night
glaze over
watchman.
it?
Das heißt, hatte immer ein Einkommen.
So this means he always had a steady income, which of course gave him socially an advantage with the crowds he hung out with.
Natürlich Privilegierte.
Age 22, he meets his wife and they get married, and things are quite normal and quite regular. But both of them have a bit of an issue with alcohol. Both of them tend to drink to excess, and their relationship becomes quite volatile and quite chaotic. They attract the attention of neighbours and the authorities when they're arguing and they're overheard having domestic disputes. So it's not a particularly nice household for very long.
After separating from his wife in 1967, 32-year-old Honka was alone and working the graveyard shift as a night watchman.
So he rented a small one-bedroom apartment, which was very close to the red light district in Hamburg. And in this apartment, he created his own little world, basically. He wasn't subject to any kind of informal surveillance of other people who would question, what are you doing? So it was his own little zone, essentially. And this is a place where he would live in something of a little bubble, to be honest. So I think this is a recipe for disaster for someone like him.
Honka spent his free time drinking in 24-hour bars around the Reeperbahn in the city's notorious red light district.
There will be lots of reasons why people turn to alcohol, but I think in this case, here's an individual who didn't have a lot of control over his life as a child. There was a lot going on around him that he had very little power over.
whatsoever. And what can happen
much
with
you wanna bet
people
this
who
guy's dad
experience
was a Nazi?
circumstances like these is that in adulthood, they develop an intense
gonna take a
need to be in
wild
control of
guess and
what's
say
going on around them.
most
And
likely.
for some people, that will manifest itself in self-medication.
Die eine Kneipe war dieser berühmte goldene Handschuh.
One of the bars was the famous Goldene Handschuh, the golden glove. It was named like that because it belonged to a famous boxer. And right across was the Elbschlosskeller, a bar where mainly homeless alcoholics or drifters hung out. Well, they drank plenty of alcohol. The preferred drink was grain schnapps with lemonade. There was dancing, and it didn't get cleaned very often. It was open all hours, round the clock, and looked accordingly. You had to be careful not to stick to the floor. And those were the surroundings and conditions.
Waren also Menschen, die ganz unten angelangt waren, die da verkehrten.
These people had reached rock bottom, at least the women who went there. And now and then, the men would take the women home with them to play sex games.
Zu Hause sexuelle Spiele zu machen.
The Golden Glove soon became one of Honka's favorite haunts. He would regularly visit after finishing his shift as a night watchman. The owner of the bar, Jörn Nenberg, became friendly with the man his regulars knew as Vite.
When he came in wearing his uniform, you could see that he was very proud of himself. But he was never pushy. People who didn't know him, who just saw him briefly, thought he looked a bit odd. Because Vite wasn't exactly a pin-up. At times, he looked a bit creepy.
Auch manchmal ein bisschen gruselig aus.
A traffic accident in his 20s had left Honka with a crooked nose and a pronounced squint.
Well, he's an individual who has never really had a very positive relationship when it comes to women. So he was abandoned by his mother. The relationship that he had with his wife was quite chaotic and quite unstable. So there isn't a really positive association with women in his mind at this point in time.
Honka is a mentally unstable, intellectually challenged runt of a man who has profound sexual problems. He finds sex with a woman almost impossible and therefore demands oral sex. He is a drunk, a loner, who has had almost no paternal, maternal caring as a child.
Baba, what are you doing?
He was no one's idea of Mr. Universe, but he was clearly, or at least able, and could afford to hire prostitutes.
Honka had taken a liking to older prostitutes who could often be found in the bars around the Reeperbahn.
Das waren ja nun Obdachlose, die kein Einkommen hatten.
These were homeless women who had no income. He had money. He could offer alcohol. He could offer a place to stay, and that made it quite easy for him. I wouldn't say to make friends, but certainly to make the acquaintance of people, whether that would be female or male. And as a result, he was well known in these circles he moved in, the lowest class of society. That was his world.
Untere Milieus. Das war seine Welt.
And it was a world that was about to implode. On the 17th of July 1975, a fire in Honka's apartment block would lead to a startling revelation: the dismembered bodies of 4 women.
Die Feuerwehr ist nach einem Brand eingesetzt worden.
The fire service responded to the fire incident, and when they found the bodies in the attic, they called us, the homicide squad. So myself and the rest of the on-duty team made our way to the crime scene.
Haben diesen Tatort aufgesucht.
The police waited for Honka to arrive home from his shift as a night watchman. He was immediately arrested and taken to the police station for questioning.
Wir haben dann dort die Tatortarbeit gemacht. Und im Verlauf
We set out to do our work and walk through the crime scene, and during the crime scene investigation, a mummified corpse was found, and underneath this mummified corpse lay a partly decomposed torso.
Wir haben also Wände aufgebrochen, Böden aufgebrochen und gesucht. Und in der Wohnung ist es dann dazu gekommen, dass uns auffiel, dass es dort sehr...
We broke down walls, broke through the floor and searched. Throughout the whole flat, we noticed this very strong smell. I'd say the typical smell of decay mixed with that of burning, very unpleasant. And so, this led us to search more, and we found a hatch facing the side of the roof that had been covered with wallpaper. And then we broke into the side of the roof and found a large object wrapped in bed linen with a corpse inside.
Aufgebrochen und dort einen in Bettbezügen eingewickelten großen Gegenstand, wo eine Leiche.
We took it out and announced that we had discovered another body.
Dann haben wir gesagt, es ist noch eine Leiche vorhanden.
The press soon got wind of this shocking discovery and headed for the crime scene. Lutz Jaffe was a newspaper photographer at the time.
Wir haben ja immer den Polizeifunk gehört.
We always listened to the police radio. Back then, it was possible to do that, and you could hear where things were happening. That's how we found out about the fire in Zeissstraße. We heard a residential building was burning, and of course I headed right out.
Ja, und da war die Feuerwehr natürlich schon da. Und dann wartet man natürlich eine Weile.
The fire brigade was already there. You obviously wait a little, because you never know what's going on inside the house. Is anyone hurt? Did someone die?
Naja, die Feuerwehrleute.
Well, firefighters have a good nose, and they can of course pick up the smell of decaying bodies.
Und dann haben die ja erstmal, glaube ich,
and then I think they found Honka's bags.
Und dann hieß es immer nur, oh, also unten bei der Polizei, wir haben.
We were downstairs getting information from the police. We have found a corpse. We have found 2 corpses. We found 3 corpses. We found 4 corpses. Well, of course, for us, it was a huge story, because things like this don't happen very often in Hamburg.
Auf der Straße schnell rumgesprochen, dass das nicht nur ein Feuer war und dadurch.
Up and down the street, the news that this wasn't just a fire spread quickly, and a lot of people turned up. You can see in the photo that they looked into the police car. This cluster of people, left and right. It was just sensational. Also, for the people who lived there, it was simply unbelievable. They probably knew him. They knew Honka. The following day, it was on the front page of all of Hamburg's newspapers.
As forensic experts worked tirelessly at the crime scene, detectives at the police station were beginning to question Honka about the gruesome discovery.
Man muss also versuchen, über die Befragung.
During the interrogation, you have to try to get a confession, or at least try to get clues that explain the evidence found at the crime scene. Only this evidence from the crime scene can help to confront him with allegations that eventually lead to charging him.
Ich habe ihn also mit der Situation, dass wir 4 Leichen gefunden haben.
So I explained the situation. We had found 4 bodies in his living room and the adjoining rooms of his flat, and I confronted him with that. He had nothing to say about it.
Hat gesagt, das weiß ich nicht.
Then he said, I don't know. I've got nothing to say about this, and I don't know what you want from me. Of course, in that moment, you accuse him and you say, how is it possible that we found a wrapped-up body behind the disguised wall in your living room?
Dass dort eine eingewickelte Leiche gefunden wurde.
And what about the 2 body parts we found in the covered hole behind your toilet? The mummified corpse and the torso. You see?
Nämlich die mumifizierte Leiche und den Torso.
And what about the fact that we found loads of women's dresses and that initial examinations of the wrapped-up body show that it is a woman? So is the mummified body, just as the chopped-up body we found under the coals also belongs to a woman. When we confronted him and asked him, what have you got to say to that? He just shrugged his shoulders and said, no idea.
Den Kohlen war auch eine Frau. Wenn man ihn dann damit konfrontierte, dass man ihm sagt, was sagen Sie dazu?
And there you are, the officer leading the interrogation, and you need to prove to him that he does have something to do with it.
Und sollen ihm nun beweisen, dass da was mit zu tun hat.
With Honka not giving them any information, the police began the arduous task of trying to identify the remains of all 4 women. And they got a big break early on. Missing parts of one of the bodies had been discovered 4 years previously.
Im November 1971.
In November 1971, a worker at a factory yard in the Gaustrasse came across some junk, and when he rummaged through it, he found body parts.
So, und zwar sieht er, dass eine Hand
He saw a hand sticking out of a pile of rubbish. He immediately informed the police. And the local officers on duty, who were the first to arrive at the scene, informed us that the findings were indeed body parts. We went to investigate further and spotted several chopped up body parts. Only the torso and the right leg were missing. Everything else was there, but cut into pieces.
Alles andere war da, aber zerteilt.
Besides the body parts, we found breasts that had been cut off, suggesting that this was in all probability related to a sex offense.
Ein Sittlichkeitsdelikt war.
Although the head was badly decomposed, in 1971 experts were able to reconstruct it well enough to enable the police to provide a photo to the press. The victim was identified as 42-year-old prostitute Gertrude Breuer. Before the fire at Honker's apartment, the case had remained unsolved.
Und somit hat sich eigentlich der Kreis geschlossen von den Leichenteilen.
We had come full circle, from the body parts found in the Gaussstrasse to the torso found on the premises of Honker's living quarters, and subsequently we could charge him with this crime.
Anlasten.
Honker had murdered Gertrude in December 1970 after picking her up in the Golden Glove. It was the first time he'd killed someone. Investigators believe he strangled the 42-year-old to death because she refused to have sex with him. He dismembered her body using a saw.
To simply cut off a limb is a fairly straightforward procedure. You need a knife to get through the flesh and a saw to get through the bone. It doesn't have to be a complex thing to do. It's not like you're a surgeon doing an operation.
Golden Glove barman Jörn Nernberg had unknowingly assisted Honker in meeting his victims.
He always said in a sneaky way, "Hey, Jörn, give that one a little drink, but don't tell her it's from me." "Okay, Vita, no problem."
The hookers are
Gave the drink.
That's what I was
"Who's that
thinking.
From someone? Oh, okay, good. They didn't ask much, as long as they had something to drink."
Gertrude Breuer, a hairdresser and part-time prostitute, was a regular in the bar.
Part-time.
Time after time, prostitutes are
what are you
killed
doing?
because no one reports them
You
missing. They live on the edge of the law. They're long past in connection with their families. They are living in a twilight world. And
I think I'm getting a bloody
well,
nose.
you miss a
I
prostitute.
taste blood.
Well, she could have given up, or she could have gone to another city, or she could have gone back to her mother, or whatever it may have been. And so they're very seldom tracked.
Even though Honker refused to cooperate with the police, they had now identified one of his victims. Each
That's
time
weird.
they interrogated
You know
him,
when, like,
detectives
your
tried to
bloody
find out
nose and, like,
more
back of
about
your
the
throat
other
is
three
blood, that's
women.
what's happening
Sie
right now.
verkehren doch auf St. Pauli.
You frequently go to San Pauli. You're still going to the Elbschloss Keller and other bars in San Pauli. You drink vast amounts of alcohol. We found a lot of alcohol in your flat.
Sie haben ihre Wände.
And we've seen the walls in your place. They're full of pornographic posters. Well, we also found a plastic doll he probably used to satisfy himself when no woman was around.
He has a doll.
The aim was to unsettle him. The uncertainty produced insecurity. His replies to specific questions were different to those he had given the previous day.
Wieder anders antwortet als im Vortag.
After taking the life of another human for the first time in December 1970, Honker wouldn't kill again for almost 4 years.
What happened to start him off again in August 1974? I would argue that Honker's alcoholism had probably got so intense by that time that he was desperately out of control. And perhaps he just had genuinely some kind of psychotic break, some kind of brainstorm that led him to kill.
The police had a wealth of evidence against Honker, but they were desperate for him to make a full confession. If he continued with his silence, they may never identify the other three murdered women.
What happened? What happened? What's wrong? What is it?
Das roch sehr merkwürdig in dem Haus.
Show me, what do you want?
Und da wohnten wohl auch...
It smelled really odd in the house.
No.
There were also foreigners living there, and Honker always said,
No.
"The foreigners cook in a funny way." They use strange spices in their food, and that's why it stinks. None of the neighbors suspected that it wasn't the foreigners, that the smell came from the body parts in Honka's flat. And they had started to reek.
Teile waren es von Honka, die allmählich anfingen zu stinken.
Once somebody dies, decomposition will begin. There will be an increase to start with in particularly the smell that comes from the body as the body functions render down, things start to decompose.
In der ganzen Wohnung, überall rundherum.
Everywhere in the flat were scented stones, all around the skirting boards. The toilet was full of them. They were everywhere.
Behälter mit Duftsteinen.
The longer the bodies had remained in Honka's attic, the harder it was to get rid of them.
A dead body is difficult to move, and once rigor mortis starts to set in and the body becomes stiff, it's not even flexible to move. It can be very hard to do.
This is really illustrative of the type of serial killer he was. He wasn't massively organised in terms of covering up his crimes. You know, he would have the corpses of his victims right there in his flat. He didn't actually dispose of them. So this was something that he was doing just kind of short-term, reactionary, just kind of coping with each day as it arose.
When the police went to Honka's favourite bars and broke the news that bodies had been found in his flat, they were met with complete disbelief.
No one expected that of him. No one. Even if you'd met him, you'd definitely have said, him? Nah, he's too harmless. Really shocking.
Journalists also went round the bars to get background colour for their stories.
Also zur Hintergrundreportage gehörte dann
Part of the story was to look around and find out, where did Honka meet his women? And that was in the Goldene Handschuh. It was unimaginable. This was pure poverty. People, human wrecks, women as well as men, whose fate had taken a sad turn for the worse.
Menschen, die, wie man sagt, menschliche Wracks waren, Frauen wie auch Männer.
These people had reached the very bottom of society. This doesn't mean they had to be criminals, but they were very poor creatures.
Denke ich mal, wie man sagt, am untersten Rand der Gesellschaft lebten. Die mussten deswegen ja nicht kriminell sein.
As a consequence, it smelled pretty bad in the Goldene Handschuh, as these people weren't able to wash. They had nowhere to go, as many of them were homeless.
Weil die Menschen hatten ja auch nicht die Möglichkeit, sich zu waschen, waren ja auch viele obdachlos.
The police had identified one of Honka's victims as Gertrude Breuer, but the other three remained a mystery. Establishing their identities would not be simple.
Even in the modern era of DNA, identifying victims can be incredibly challenging. By and large, you have to have something to compare your victim to. So dental records, evidence of missing people, have they got defining characteristics that's unique to them?
The police found a pile of women's ID cards in Honka's flat and set about the complicated task of trying to find the rightful owners among the prostitutes who frequented the bars around the Reeperbahn. Each time they found a woman alive, they were able to cross her off the list of potential victims. One of the local officers at the time was Peter Reichardt.
Wir haben von dieser Liste eigentlich alle Namen.
We were able to work our way through all the names on this list, and we realized that our women all seemed to be alive.
The Hamburg police also put out a call to colleagues across Germany for details of missing women in their mid-40s to mid-50s.
Was meinen Sie, wie viele Vermisstenanzeigen Sie aus der Bundesrepublik kriegen?
How many missing persons reports do you think they get in Germany? I had stacks of them on my desk and I had to look through all of them and somehow still wasn't making progress.
Also haben wir uns
Well, so we catalogued the clothes we had found in his flat, hung them up, numbered them and photographed each item.
mit Nummern versehen.
These clothes were really the only thing we had at that moment.
War eine für sich das Einzige, was wir hatten im Moment.
Detectives would have to go to the bars Honka went to around the Reeperbahn to see if anyone could help them.
Und Nun versuchen Sie mal auf St. Pauli.
You try going to San Pauli when you don't have a name. You don't have an address. All you have is clothes and nothing else. You have the name of Mr. Honker, and with that you go to a bar and ask people, what kind of girlfriends did he have?
In eine Kneipe und fragen dort, was hatte er denn für Freunde.
What do you think the people in these bars tell you? Yes, he had many women, you know. One was called Annie, the other Gerda, and the next Erika. But that's all we know. Well, what are you going to do with that?
Aber mehr wissen wir nicht. Ja, was wollen Sie denn damit anfangen?
So you go round all the bars showing the outfits, and if you're lucky, you might get a name. Yes, such and such always wore these kind of clothes.
Hatte immer die und die an. Und wenn man erstmal einen Vornamen hat.
As soon as you get a first name, you can make progress. At that point, we were established that we were probably dealing with aging prostitutes.
Wahrscheinlich alternde Prostituierte handelt.
Using the list of missing persons, the clothes found in Honker's apartment, and the names gathered from the local bars, detectives were able to draw up a short list of possible victims. Armed with photographs, they headed out onto the Reeperbahn once more.
And with these pictures, we went back to show them around and were finally able to establish, yes, he had a thing with her.
It was a major breakthrough for the police. They had linked a number of women to Honker.
Als wir das hatten, dass wir nun diese Frauen hatten.
As soon as we knew who these women were, we could confront him again and again during the interrogations. And we kept insisting until he'd say, yes, I knew her and she'd been over at my place. So at least now he had admitted that they'd been with him. Some stayed longer with him for days, even weeks. It was nice for the women. Suddenly they had somewhere to live. The question was, what happened next? Well, we obviously had to confront him with the fact that he had killed the woman. And all he said, I can't remember. We had no choice but to accept that. However, there was evidence that the women who had been identified and who had also lived with him were found dead in his flat. And that exactly was the point.
But the police still needed a confession.
Nun mussten wir eigentlich nur noch dann mal von ihm hören.
Now we just had to hear from him that he killed them, and how he killed them, and what he did with the bodies. And that's difficult. That's very difficult. As I remember, he always made it sound like it was a possibility, but he never admitted it 100%.
Aber nicht 100%ig gesagt.
It is interesting that he didn't deny the killings. He wasn't a particularly, oh no, it's got nothing to do with me. Mind you, it would have been very difficult for him to deny the killings. He was living with the body parts of 4 women. I mean, how they got there, he was the only person who truly knew.
Wir haben ihn auch gesagt, ja, aber,
we kept pushing him, but you chopped up the bodies. You cut the women up with a saw, and so on. He just said, I can't remember.
Da kann ich mich nicht dran erinnern.
It was further frustration for the police.
Beispielsweise,
for example, he would say, yeah, I slept with that woman. And in the morning, she was lying dead next to me. Well, how she died, the way she died, I simply can't say.
Das kann ich nicht genau sagen.
Although Honker continued to deny killing the 3 women, the detectives were at least able to finally identify them. They were 54-year-old Anna Boyschel, 52-year-old Ruth Schult, and 57-year-old Frieda Roblick, a regular in the Golden Glove who went by the name of Rita.
Dann hatte ich eine Putze, die
I had a cleaning lady who always helped out. Her name was Sophie, and Sophie was friends with Rita. Now and then, Sophie would take Rita home with her so she could have a wash, bathe, or even sleep. But I don't know. I think she had nowhere to live.
Aber ich weiß nicht, ich glaube, die hatte keine Wohnung. Die war eine ganze
She was gone for a while. One day she came back wearing nice clothes, really quite fancy. And I said, where have you been? I really thought you were dead. No, I have a new boyfriend and he's wonderful.
Ich habe einen neuen Freund und der ist ganz toll.
But that new boyfriend was Fritz Honka, who strangled her to death in December 1974.
Honka always seems to me to be kind of an accidental serial killer. He didn't fit what the BAU, the FBI's behavioral unit, call organized. He was completely disorganized. These were crimes of opportunity. He wasn't stalking these women. He wasn't planning their killings. They happened. They were part of his tragic character and part of his drinking and part of the fact that he found any kind of sexual relationship with women almost impossible. And this was the only way he could find to satisfy those desires that he had.
The West German press were fascinated with Honka. Photographer Lutz Jaffe managed to capture a photograph of the mysterious killer.
Man hatte ja doch schon damals gute Kontakte.
Back then, you could have pretty good contacts within the police. And I knew that Honka would be taken either to prison or to appear in front of the magistrate at a specific time. Someone from the police had told me about it.
Das hat mir irgendjemand erzählt von der Polizei damals und dann habe ich mich da auf die Lauer.
Well, and then I lay in wait for him to arrive. That's how this photo came about. As he turned around when I called, "Mr. Honka," that's how I managed to catch him.
So habe ich ihn dann erwischt.
The police were trying to determine a motive for the murders. Interviews with local prostitutes who'd been with Honka and lived to tell the tale revealed shocking facts about his perverse sexual tastes.
Diese Frauen, die seiner Wohnung entkommen sind,
The women who escaped from his home were very lucky. The interrogation of these women hinted at his sexual practices, and these were sometimes catastrophic. I don't want to go into every detail here, but it was pretty terrible.
Also ich will das hier nicht im Einzelnen aufführen, aber das war schon fürchterlich. Und dass man sagt,
It's possible these sexual practices got out of hand and became excessive, which, I have to say, might have led to the death of a woman.
möglicherweise muss ich sagen, zum Tode so einer Frau geführt haben.
One of the surviving victims showed the police a scar she'd received in a brutal sexual encounter with Honka.
Weil sie sich ja so aufgeregt hat über Fritz Honka, die alte Sau.
Because she was so upset about Fritz Honka, that dirty old swine, as she called him, she pulled up her skirt, took off her underwear, and pointed to a scar beside her vagina. "What is that?" I asked her. She then told us that during a sexual encounter with Fritz Honka, he had penetrated her with a broom handle. That's where the injury had come from, and she ended up in hospital. She was furious, angry beyond belief, you could say.
Ohnmächtig vor Wut, kann man sagen.
And she wasn't the only one who needed medical treatment after spending the night with Honka.
Eine der Frauen, mit der, die er auch mit in seine Wohnung genommen hat.
For example, one of the women he took back to his place, he sat her with a bare bum on top of a hot plate. As a result, the woman ran semi-naked out of the flat. This is an example, the sort of thing where he became violent.
Wo dann gewalttätig geworden ist.
This may have resulted in these deaths, but of course, it's also possible that the women weren't complying with his demands, and he became violent towards them.
Und dann gewalttätig gegenüber den Frauen geworden ist.
The investigation was drawing to an end, but some questions remained unanswered.
He had, unbelievable though it may seem, escaped under the radar for 5 years, killing 4 women and basically keeping them around the flat as trophies. Now, there's no suggestion that Honka had sex with them post-mortem. There's no suggestion that he was some kind of necrophiliac. I think he was just a dreadfully lazy drunk who didn't know what else to do and just convinced himself it'd be perfectly all right.
In November 1976, the trial of Fritz Honka began in Hamburg. He had retracted his initial confession and was now denying all the charges against him.
Well, his defence strategy when he was arrested and charged with the crimes was an incredibly bizarre one. He decided to blame Jack the Ripper, who was sending him messages to kill these women. Now, this appears to be something that is, completely bizarre and very odd. But it could be evidence of somebody who is experiencing some kind of mental ill health. We know that people who experience episodes of psychosis feel very strongly compelled to act in a particular way, and they're not really fully in control of their actions. But equally at the same time, if you are reading the newspapers, if you are listening to the radio, and you know that this is something that is available to you, that you're able to come out with this and it perhaps be taken seriously, then you're going to give it a go.
The psychiatrists who examined Honka during the court case concluded that he'd acted with diminished criminal responsibility. On the 20th of December 1976, the jury found him guilty of 3 counts of manslaughter and 1 of murder, that of 54-year-old Anna Boyschel, who he had strangled in his apartment in August 1974. Honka was sentenced to 15 years in a psychiatric hospital.
He might have been described at the time as a bit slow. That affects the amount of culpability that we assign to his crimes. So was he in control of what he was doing? Did he know what he was doing was wrong? And if that can't be established, then perhaps he is treated in a mental health facility rather than a prison. And indeed, he served 15 years in a hospital setting.
The crimes of Fritz Honka left the entire country in shock, especially the city of Hamburg.
Also eine Mordtat.
I believe after the Second World War, such a murder case has never happened again in the history of crimes in Hamburg. It was a unique case that someone killed 4 women, dismembered them, and left them in his flat.
Zerteilt hat und in seiner Wohnung deponiert hat.
After that, we became very, very well known beyond Hamburg. Famous for the murder, as unpleasant as it was, and as sorry as I felt for the women, especially Rita. Rita really didn't deserve it.
Honka was released from the psychiatric hospital in 1993. He spent the final years of his life in a nursing home under the name Peter Jensen. He died in Hamburg on the 19th of October 1998. He was 63 years old. Today, Fritz Honka has become something of a cult figure in Hamburg. The Golden Glove continues to capitalize on its most infamous former customer, with the words Honka Saloon emblazoned above the entrance.
Also diese Lokale waren ein No-Go.
These bars were a no-go zone. Not in a million years would a normal Hamburg citizen go there. Only after the series of murders was made public did it become an interesting place for people in fur coats to visit after the opera, so they could see for themselves how well off they were and how miserable the others. Well, I'm going to be really generous and pay for a round of beer. It was just to boost their own ego.
Damit haben die sich selber aufgebaut.
But it should never be forgotten that Honka was a violent killer who took away the lives of 4 innocent women.
I think he's somebody who did evil things, but if we call him evil, we let him off the hook. We just simply explain it away as well. This kind of subhuman monster that just does these things because they're evil. And that removes the possibility that they've chosen to do these things.
It's entirely possible that Honka would have got away with it a little longer. No one really had complained particularly. He'd had bodies in the flat for almost 5 years. He could well have had them for another 2 years. It is inevitable, however, that eventually justice would have caught up with Honka.
Fritz Honka callously killed 4 women between 1970 and 1975. He strangled them before dismembering their bodies. By attacking prostitutes, he hoped his crimes would never be revealed. Had it not been for a fire in his apartment block, who knows just how many victims may have been murdered at the hands of Fritz Honka, one of the world's most evil killers.
Paper was like gold in medieval times.
you want tobacco? Another one. Sugar. To listen to. Okay, let's watch this one.
Reg Cray's funeral.
What do you guys think of the eye so far? You like it?
The last of the notorious Cray brothers was dead. The twins had terrorized the East End of London
Oh
with
shit, I
violence,
can hear
talk,
that. Sounds way too quiet. Oh, this one. Killing his wife to escape a marriage. Let's try that one.
Are you evil? Somewhat. He is former KGB.
After killing his wife, Kroner chopped up her body, packed the pieces in 4 large boxes, and then stashed them in a storage unit.
To actually dismember a body 12 hours after death without that detailed knowledge of anatomy would be a very difficult task.
Many domestic homicides are carried out in the heat of an argument, but this was cold and calculated.
When we look at cases like the Kroner case, it's just the extreme end of the wedge. It's the tip of the iceberg.
The brutality of the crime and the indifference displayed after he murdered his wife makes Horst Kroner one of the world's most evil killers. It was a murder that shocked the small town of Friedberg in southern Germany. The brutality of the crime committed by Horst Kroner on November the 30th, 2015 was extraordinary. His motive was simply to be able to satisfy his growing sexual needs without his wife getting in his way.
When we look back and we say, well, what was the trigger or what was the thing that made him decide that he was going to kill Grace? Basically, Grace stopped playing ball. She stopped being the wife that he wanted her to be.
She was no more than a toy. She was there to solve his problems for him because, after all, he had so many problems. That construct of the very caring Filipino Grace and this cold, self-obsessed, indulgent German proved to be fatal.
This killer's story began in 1963. Horst Kroner was born in the small town of Friedberg in Bavaria, Germany. Kroner himself described his childhood as unhappy and miserable, and in later years blamed this for all his troubles.
What is clear, however, is that Kroner from a very early age felt that the world was against him. Oh, I was so miserable. I was suicidal. My life was a misery.
Sagt, selbstverständlich hatte ich Eltern.
He said, yes, obviously I had parents, but in a narrower sense, I have never received love. And what bothered me most was that in my parents' home, I basically did not receive any recognition. I was a human being too, but I had the feeling that I was not counted as such. And that resulted in his low self-esteem and, in fact, made him a social outsider.
Jörg Heinzel was a local journalist who covered the case.
He talked about himself, that he got little from his parents. They were both at work. They both worked a lot, and therefore he spent the majority of his time as a child with his grandmother and was brought up by his grandmother.
Kröner worked as an IT technician, but he was not happy with his life.
Horst Kröner sagt, dass immer
Horst Kröner says that every so often he had suicidal thoughts because he believed he could not survive in everyday social life. He was always stressed, he said. This is to some extent understandable. He had changed his place of work a total of 10 times. He sometimes felt bullied at work, but sometimes he resigned out of his own free will. Essentially, he led an unsettled life for a very long time.
Kröner had a fascination with women from Southeast Asia and was married twice before.
Seine Frauen hat jeweils über eine Heiratsagentur,
He had met his wives through a dating agency, newspaper adverts, or, in the last case, on the internet. He clearly did not have the confidence to approach a woman at a party, or maybe in a supermarket, or through other opportunities. I assume that this man indeed had problems with women.
Kröner wanted to be in a relationship and met his third wife again on the internet. 27-year-old Grace was from the Philippines. She moved to Germany and married 42-year-old Kröner in March 2005.
That suggests to me that he's targeting a particular group of women from particular cultures where they have a more traditional idea of femininity and of masculinity, women who take that traditional nurturer caregiver role, that he's going to find easier to be in control of.
Grace embraced her new life. She learned to speak German and fully integrated into the small town of Friedberg.
She worked as a shop assistant in a supermarket, mainly at the meat counter, and she actually had a good relationship with all her colleagues. She was described as nice, friendly, helpful, very sociable, and was very much liked there.
On the surface, they appeared to have had a blissful marriage.
Both strangers and acquaintances had the impression that they had a happy marriage and were both very content with their situation.
Over time, however, more and more problems accumulated. But neither Horst nor Grace were able to admit to the problems, to discuss them and find solutions.
Grace joined the Jehovah's Witnesses and persuaded her husband to come along to the church meetings. However, cracks began to appear in the picture-perfect union.
I think perhaps because it gave her a family, a place to have stable relationships. She knew she was married to a cold, calculating man. She'd realised that.
Horst Kröner exhibited extreme mood swings. Analysts later connected this to his overarching narcissism.
Narcissists can swing between two extremes. They swing between seeing themselves as worthless and then thinking they're really special at the same time. So they have a sense of entitlement. They think that they're better than everybody else, but that underneath it all, they're fundamentally ashamed of who they are. So it's this constant state of conflict with them.
For Grace, Kröner's behavior would soon prove fatal. Even though he was married, Horst Kröner was determined to have sex with other women.
He feels that he should have his cake and eat it. He feels that he should have Grace at home, looking after his needs, doing his laundry, putting dinner on the table. But at the same time, he wants to be engaging in sexual encounters with other women.
He said that basically, he led a kind of double life. On the one hand, he was a member of Jehovah's Witnesses. On the other hand, this double life, where he was unfaithful to his wife and searched the internet for acquaintances and new adventures.
The stress of Kröner's infidelity took a toll on their marriage.
He had reasoned that whenever he had problems or felt stressed, professionally, privately, when things weren't going well, he would withdraw and busy himself more with the internet, with exchanging online chats. And he was always in search of women, Asian women who lived in Thailand, and these acquaintances resulted in his desire to meet these women in person.
die Frauen auch mal wirklich zu treffen.
Making matters worse, Kröner had financial problems. He was constantly struggling to pay the child support that he owed to his two former wives.
He was spending money quite unsparingly and was then so short of cash that once he had to file for bankruptcy.
In 2007, Kröner decided to satisfy his sexual urges and booked a holiday for himself. It would not be the last time that Kröner would cheat on Grace.
Und ein zweites Mal, das war
The second time that he flew to Thailand again was in 2013.
nochmal nach Thailand geflogen.
The deceitful thing about this flight was that Grace, at the time, had flown back to her home in the Philippines because her mother had died and was to be buried there.
Werden sollte.
And he used that time to fly to Thailand for a sex holiday.
Das genutzt, nach Thailand zu fliegen und dort in Sexurlaub zu fliegen.
By 2013, Grace discovered that Kröner had formed relationships online with several women. Bernd Scharinger was Kröner's defense lawyer.
He once said that his favorite time was 2013, when he had such a trip to Thailand. And that's why he wanted to do it once more before ending his life. He wanted to have a nice time again, and then to kill himself as the final act.
Then in the autumn of 2015 came the final straw. Horst Kröner had planned another solo sex trip to Thailand. But this time, Grace had had enough. The strain of her husband's infidelity was more than she was willing to bear. Grace now threatened to leave Kröner, and it pushed him over the edge.
Hätte Grace das wahrgemacht, was sie ihm angedroht hat? Wenn du das nochmal machst, nach Thailand fährst.
If Grace had done what she had threatened, if you go one more time to Thailand to have sex with other women, then I will file for a divorce, that would have been the financial ruin of Horst Kröner. And he would have no longer been able to pursue his pastime of having sex with Thai women. And those were already two solid reasons to think of a radical solution.
Faced with his wife's ultimatum, Kröner decided to kill her. His calculating plan included murder, disposing of the body, and then flying to Thailand to have sex. For his wife Grace, her husband's cheating was just too much to accept.
He saw women as objects. He saw them simply as trophies, objects that could be dispensed with. The same was his attitude to sex tourism. He would make arrangements to visit Thailand, make appointments, and say, oh, this is the woman who's going to fulfill my fantasies.
Many people will look at this case and say, well, why didn't he simply just ask for a divorce? And the simple reason is that when you ask for a divorce, your control over that situation is dissolved a little bit. And here we've got an individual who likes to be fully in control of everything that's going on around him, especially the woman in his life. So by taking matters into his own hands, he's fully in control. He's 100% in the driving seat, and nobody else is going to be interfering with that.
She had said, if you go one more time to Thailand and make contact with other women, or if you do that in Germany, then you will lose me. We will get divorced.
Hatte bereits eine Privatinsolvenz hinter sich. Das heißt, stand
He had already gone through bankruptcy.
Und das ist dann schon.
He was on the brink of financial ruin.
Auch narzisstisch.
Which was already, for someone with a narcissistic disposition like him, a very solid reason to come up with an extreme solution. Either her or me.
Kröner booked his trip for December the 2nd, and he used Grace's money to do it.
Dadurch, dass allerdings dann diese
The fact that he made these withdrawals from his wife's account and that she could possibly see the account statements the following Monday meant on that weekend on which the act happened was the signal for the beginning. The decision was made to commit the act.
was actually booking a hotel room in Thailand because he knew that his wife would discover that he'd done that the following day. It was that that provided the timeline for the killing.
The smart IT tech had formed what he thought was a foolproof plan to kill his wife and get away with it.
I think that the fact he has a high IQ and he's an intelligent man is significant in relation to this crime. He's going to be thinking through the process more. He's going to be trying to cover up. He's going to be thinking about all of those things that could potentially trip up somebody who wasn't as intelligent.
Kroner didn't just plan the murder, he also needed to ensure the body would not be discovered.
Nachdem Horst Kröner für sich entschieden hat, ich werde meine Frau töten, hat
After Horst Kröner had decided to kill his wife, he searched the internet looking for possibilities, for an airtight way to pack the corpse so the body wouldn't start to smell. He wanted to know how to kill his wife, so he made related searches. He wanted to kill her as quickly and as painlessly as possible. He looked up, if I cut up her body, which I will have to do if I kill her in our apartment, where can I dispose of the body?
Wo kann ich die Leichenteile deponieren?
By analysing his search records, investigators later discovered that Kroner had made a grim to-do list. The first thing he did was to buy a £5 hammer and duct tape. For ease of access, he hid the hammer in the dining room cabinet.
He didn't have a weapon readily available in the basement, as in cases where spontaneous murders happen. Instead, he had bought one specifically from the hardware store. He had also searched and read information on the internet on the subject of storage rental. He didn't buy everything in advance. Some things he only bought right after the murder took place.
Kroner later revealed his twisted justification behind the callous decision to murder his wife.
Actually, the reasons he gave as to why he came up with the idea that he had to kill his wife were not really comprehensible. He always said that he actually wanted to kill himself because he had so many problems and his life was too hard for him.
On Monday, the 30th of November 2015, the day of reckoning had arrived. Kroner waited until the early hours of the morning to be sure that his wife was asleep. Then he took the hammer out of the dining room cabinet, walked into the bedroom, and hit Grace as hard as he could in the head.
What we have to hope is that that first blow would leave her unconscious. But if you are intending to murder somebody, then repeated blows, essentially you're making sure of the job.
He then waited until his wife fell asleep, and in the early hours of the morning, grabbed the hammer and beat her over the head a total of 6 times.
Ow! I can think of few more depraved acts than dispatching someone with a hammer after you've climbed into bed with them. But nevertheless, Kroner did exactly that.
Even after many blows, Grace still seemed to be moving.
You sometimes get these muscular spasms even when somebody's just died, because as the electrical impulses are just starting to fail, they will spark off little nerve fibers, spark off muscular twitches. So it can just be the effect of the brain dying.
To ensure she was dead, Kroner pulled a bin liner over his wife's head, wrapped duct tape around her neck, and then suffocated her with a pillow. Examiners later determined he did this for 15 to 20 minutes.
In his case, he did 3 types of murders. You know, it was blunt force, then suffocation with a plastic, and then suffocation with a pillow. People will go through different emotions, especially when you plan a crime like that, and then you think you can go ahead with it. And sometimes people get overwhelmed by different emotions, and then they will do things that are like unnatural. they'll carry on doing things. That's why some people do the overkill.
After he was satisfied his wife was dead, Kroner went into the next phase of his plan, to dispose of Grace's body. The killer went to a local hardware store and bought some supplies in order to dismember the corpse.
Went out and bought materials that he needed, including a saw, including plastic storage boxes, including building foam, including salt.
When Kroner returned home, he wrapped Grace's lifeless body in a blanket and dragged it onto the rug in the bedroom.
To actually dismember a body 12 hours after death, without that detailed knowledge of anatomy, would be a very difficult task.
But Kroner was prepared for any eventuality. He bought a tub to cut the body up in and carefully covered the whole of the bedroom floor with plastic sheets. He had worked out that the best time to cut up a body was 12 hours after death.
I think that there is an element in which he feels this is a challenge that he's going to rise to, that he's going to do well. So this is somebody who is treating it almost like a project. And that is incredibly cold and incredibly chilling.
Kroner then proceeded to cut his wife's body into 8 pieces with a saw.
I would expect that the actual process would be relatively clean. The blood is not flowing around the body, so as you cut through blood vessels and other structures, blood would leak, but it wouldn't spray as it would if someone was still alive.
He put each part of the corpse into a large plastic bag and then added salt to the mix. He did this to slow the decomposition of the body. Next, Kroner placed the bags, tools, rug and bed linen in 4 plastic boxes and filled them with construction foam. He hoped this routine would mask any smell that may lead the authorities to discover his heinous crime.
The way to prevent decomposition, if you were preserving meat, so salt would slow down the process, it would desiccate the tissues. Keeping it cold would slow down the rate of decomposition. And these things will slow the process, but by no means prevent it completely.
Kroner then drove the boxes containing his wife's dismembered body parts to a self-storage unit in Friedberg.
He said himself that he was quite nervous, not that it was outwardly
This just
noticeable
makes me
looking
think
at him.
of like Breaking Bad.
He then described that whilst unloading the boxes,
When it's
one
like
box had
you
fallen on the
put that,
floor and had
whatchamacallit,
almost
acid
opened.
in the tubs.
He had murdered his wife and was now finally free to satisfy his selfish appetites.
He just wanted his holiday. And for that holiday, he didn't care. He had to kill her, chop her up, put her inside a box, fill the box with foam, and then try to hide the box somewhere. He did not care what he had to do. So it's a complete lack of emotion towards somebody that he actually shared a life with. And to me, it's the worst type of psychopath you can have.
There are an awful lot of men who kill their wives and then seek to take a terrible revenge on the body. Not always going to the lengths that Kroner went to of meticulously cutting it up and storing it in plastic boxes that didn't smell, but the level of rage and the level of anger that killing your wife means is very, very difficult to quantify from the outside. It's beyond most people's wildest imaginings.
It is a problem all over the world that there will be women everywhere losing their lives at the hands of their partner or their ex-partner. So when we look at cases like the Kroner case, it's just the extreme end of the wedge. It's the tip of the iceberg.
The next day, he set about covering his tracks. First, Kroner stashed the body parts in a storage unit in his hometown of Friedberg. Determined to get away with murder, Kroner then put his escape plan into motion. He had carefully prepared reasons why he and Grace were absent.
There was, of course, the fact that they had requested leave from their respective employers because they wanted to go on holiday together to the Philippines. And he had also laid false tracks. When he dropped a note to the neighbors, he wrote that Grace had left him and he was now flying after her to see what was left of their marriage to save. And he would get in touch again.
On the 2nd of December 2015, 2 days after he murdered his wife, Kroner boarded a plane to Thailand.
He spent most of the time in Pattaya, which is a known place for sex tourism. And there, he met with several women, including one he had already contacted over the internet, and he admitted himself that he also had had sex with these women.
Back home in the small town of Friedberg, at first no one suspected a thing.
There were already different false tracks laid, so that only after Mrs. Kroner's holiday ended did her colleagues from work start to get worried, as well as members of their church congregation who questioned why they had not turned up. People then tried to make contact but were unsuccessful.
When the usually reliable Grace did not show up for work or for her regular church services, suspicions grew. Finally, just before Christmas in December 2015, a concerned friend reported Grace missing to the local police.
Also es gab eigentlich dann bei den ersten Untersuchungen.
Actually, at the beginning of the inquiries, there was no evidence that Grace had indeed travelled. People had also contacted her family. She wasn't there, and nobody knew of a holiday trip or a visit home, and so it became ever more apparent that she had practically disappeared without a trace.
A search of the flat that Horst Kroner and his wife Grace shared drew a blank. There were no clues to indicate foul play or to the couple's whereabouts.
After the act, he tidied up and cleaned up everything very thoroughly. He put the rug on which he cut up the body on the balcony, rolled up. But nobody noticed that at first. However, a small blood splatter was found in the bedroom, but no one knew that a murder had taken place.
Police soon discovered that Horst Kroner had booked a ticket for himself alone to Thailand. But with no body found, the case against Kroner was circumstantial. Nonetheless, for investigators, Kroner was the prime suspect.
Well, it is almost the classic question whether it's murder fact or murder fiction, isn't it? Who's the first person you're likely to die at the hands of? It's almost certainly to be your husband. That's why most murderers know their victims, and most victims know their murderers. Probably the most likely victim of all is a wife, and the most likely killer of all is a husband.
On the 8th of January 2016, Horst Kroner returned to Germany and was arrested the next day. Then, in a curious twist, Kroner confessed to his crimes and led police to the storage unit where they recovered Grace's body.
Most people are quite surprised to hear that as soon as he's apprehended, he completely spills the beans. He tells the police everything. But that doesn't surprise me at all, because he's aware, okay, I've been caught, so I'm in a situation now which is largely out of my control. So to get some of that control back, I'm going to be the one who sets the narrative. I'm going to be the one that decides what happens. So in confessing everything, he has that feeling of being in control again.
Horst Kroner's trial began 9 months later on the 25th of October 2016 at the courthouse in Augsburg. Journalist Jörg Heinzel closely followed the trial.
The interest in this case was naturally huge. There were various media involved, lots of reporters who wanted to follow the process. Because of the crime scene, the dismemberment and the storing of the body alone meant that this case was indeed out of the ordinary.
Representing Kroner at the trial was Bernd Scharinger.
I had made the request that the court make sure that initially, in the context of the trial, he would be pixelated, which most of the media adhered to.
Kroner had decided on a bizarre defense strategy, one that would see the wife killer paint himself as the victim.
Die Geschichte, die vor Gericht erzählt hat, ist aus meiner Sicht.
The story that he told in court, in my view, is actually more of a late defense claim. I do think that the murder of his wife was planned and also executed in cold blood, and that his suicidal thoughts at that point were certainly not acute, because What would have actually kept him from putting those thoughts into action?
Mit Sicherheit nicht akut waren. Denn was hätte ihn davon abgehalten, es dann auch tatsächlich zu tun? Sich anhört, aber ich denke schon, dass das.
Even if it sounds very, very strange, I think he actually had it in him. He also said that the decision to murder his wife was made on that night when he grabbed the hammer. In other words, only after the first blow of the hammer did the intent to kill manifest itself.
Der eigentliche Tötungsvorsatz bei ihm manifestiert.
According to him.
Zumindest seine Angaben. Hier versucht jemand, die hohe Schuld, die angehäuft hat,
Here is someone trying to conceal his serious guilt so as not to be seen as a monster.
Psycho.
In a letter written by the killer after his conviction to the makers of this program, Kroner lays out the plea that he made to the jury.
I allowed family, work, and financial problems, as well as several miscalculations, to influence me to such an extent that I completely blocked out everything that was good in my life. I increasingly got myself into a kind of state of desperation. This situation became so extreme that I was convinced my life had no meaning anymore. I wanted to die. In the end, it was the only thing I could think of. I believed to the very last moment that I would not be able to do such a dreadful thing. The idea she could feel something was awful. I didn't want her to feel anything, and for this reason, I did it while she was asleep. I never hated her. We hadn't argued on that day. It was only sheer desperation that made me commit this offense.
The self-serving defense stunned observers of the case.
He's almost presenting Grace's murder as something that he's done for her own good, which is incredulous. But when you look at the logic and the decision making of somebody like Kroner, who's always going to want to present himself as the victim and present himself in a favourable light, you can see how he gets to the point it's all to protect himself.
The case rocked Friedberg and the whole of Germany.
He didn't give an impression of coldness. He was rather reserved and subdued. But he had answered the questions and also tried to clarify how things came to that point. He was quite open about it. He was also emotional the whole time, to the extent that it was said one cannot imagine that there is a case being handled where he is the brutal murderer.
hat 3 Merkmale bekommen. Hat einmal eben
He had been labelled with 3 characteristics: a lack of motivation because he had such low morals. He himself admitted that he wanted once more to go to Thailand, to have a good time, and they suggested that this was his motivation to murder, in order to be able to have a good time in Thailand. Then he was accused of greed, because he had stolen money from his wife's account, and of course, insidiousness, because he had killed her in her sleep.
Having confessed to the crime, at stake now was how long Kroner would serve for the callous murder of his wife. At the trial, Kroner had devised a cunning defense, a strategy calculated to keep himself out of prison. The fight to save his own skin had just begun. If found guilty, Kroner would serve life imprisonment with a 15-year minimum before he could be considered for parole. Supported by a wealth of evidence and a confession, prosecutors presented a strong case for murder against the 53-year-old Bavarian wife killer.
When Kroner eventually comes to trial, he has confessed to the killings, so there is no question of proving his guilt. There is simply a question of how he will be treated. Is he sane? Yes. Did he plan it? Yes. Did he kill his wife when she was asleep and defenseless? Yes. Did he then dismember her body? Yes. Did he then conceal the body parts in storage boxes? Yes. Quite often in German law, you can be considered for release for a life sentence after 15 years.
There is a big contradiction here. He himself tried to present it as if everything had taken place impulsively, as if he had thought about it relatively spontaneously. What goes against this, however, is that he thought a lot about it and had planned a lot beforehand, which could be gleaned from the information on his computer.
Determined to lessen his sentence, Kroner's lawyers tried to convince the jury that the killing was not premeditated. Rather, the attack was an impulsive act. He even had to muster the courage to do it.
So there is a story that he had a few drinks, that he summoned up a bit of Dutch courage by having some alcohol beforehand. I don't think he would have needed to do that because he hasn't got those emotions or those feelings there that he needs to numb. So I'm skeptical of the fact that he felt he had to have a drink to summon up the courage to do it. He didn't need to do that at all.
Listening to it in retrospect, he lists all the trivial things that led him to take that step. He explained in court, for example, that his wife once burned food in the kitchen, and that had really annoyed him because he had to air the house for 2 days. And that was a sign that she wasn't concentrating, that maybe she was also searching for someone new, and that she no longer took their relationship seriously. He also described another example where shortly before the murder, his car also broke down. The alternator had broken, and that had been so awful for him that he fell into a deep hole again, and he more or less made the decision then that it must end now, and he has to kill Grace.
In the letter written to the makers of this program from jail, Kroner reiterated the story that he told in court.
All the horrible things I did afterwards, I could only do under the continuing influence of alcohol. Today, when I look back, I feel nauseated and I can't understand myself. Every action after the offence had only one purpose, to provide myself with enough time to commit suicide.
Kroner does, however, express some remorse for his actions.
What I did to her and to our families is the worst someone can do to another human being, especially in the case of a loved one. To this day, I can't comprehend how I could have suppressed my love for her before and during the act.
For some, Kroner's apology and his diminished responsibility defense is still hard to believe.
Is it true what the defendant tells us here? Yes, he is legally allowed to lie. He is allowed to, in a purely legal way, tell us the greatest fairy tales. And one always asks oneself, is this really the defendant, or is he telling us a story? I did have the impression that he tried, in his way, to answer the questions openly and honestly, although for me, there was a feeling that he was trying to make everything sound nicer. In hindsight, he describes it as being so bad that it was almost unbearable for him. So you hear in the plot again his self-pity, which is probably shaping him.
I think when we look at Kroner's claims that he's felt suicidal throughout his life, we've got to take a step back and say, well, what effect does that have on us when we hear somebody say to us that they feel suicidal? It helps us kind of empathize with them. It makes us feel sympathy for them, and we see them as the victim. So I think he's aware of the effect that this narrative will have when he presents it to other people.
The conclusions of the prosecution's psychiatrist did not support Kroner's assessment of himself.
He was very self-centered. He was scared of losing Grace, and this anxiety, this fear of losing Grace, probably then led him to become so aggressive and to turn to these murderous thoughts.
Das Gutachten kommt halt schon auch zu dem Ergebnis, dass eben ein...
The report also came to the conclusion that he is the type of person that avoided dealing with problems when they arose, and he is also probably very introverted. As a result, the report came to the conclusion that he is actually, so to speak, a normal person.
Dass eigentlich ein, in Anführungszeichen...
That he also doesn't have any illness, in particular, that he does not have any mental illness.
The jury was convinced that Kroner, driven by his narcissistic urges, killed his wife and carefully disposed of her body. On the 17th of November 2016, he was found guilty of the murder of his wife, 37-year-old Grace. But rather than the mandatory 15 years before he could be considered for parole, Kroner was sentenced to serve 20 years minimum.
The severity of the guilt prompted the judge in Kroner's case to say, there has to be a minimum sentence of at least 20 years before he can be considered for release.
He showed relatively little emotion during the whole process. He faltered once and burst into tears a bit. But he took the verdict quite well.
Kroner reportedly apologized to Grace's sisters, who traveled from the Philippines to attend the trial.
I'm delighted if Kroner's apparent remorse helped Grace's family deal with her killing. And I'm delighted that they were able to take her ashes with them back to the Philippines from Germany. I have just never believed that Kroner had the slightest remorse. And I believed he was simply putting on appearances, or rather keeping up appearances as a respectable German citizen. I think it was an absolute charade from beginning to end.
Horst Kroner murdered his wife, and he did it in one of the most cruel and callous ways possible.
Here's somebody who is very cold, who is very calculating, who doesn't have genuine feelings of love or warmth or respect for his wife. She's useful to him at one point in time, and then she ceases being useful to him, so he's going to absolutely obliterate her.
Ich sag mal so, der Mann.
Let me put it this way. The man had indeed gone through life unpunished, had committed an act that is so incomprehensible, even for him.
Nicht nachvollziehbar sein wird für ihn selber ja.
Is 15 years appropriate? Is 20 years appropriate?
Sind 20 Jahre angemessen.
I think what will transpire in the end is whether he processes his actions to the extent that one can say, this man will never do it again.
For me, it was a type of crime that I'd never experienced before. And for me, what is still until today incomprehensible is this really terrible cruelty, this brutality on the one hand, and this cold, methodical procedure on the other hand. One simply imagines a perpetrator that gets some pleasure out of the crime, that wants to torment the victim, and that doesn't fit together, not even now. The crime doesn't fit with his personality, and that is, for me, what has made this crime so very extraordinary.
We've got somebody who carried out a cold and a calculated and a planned murder, and somebody who tried to get away with it. So there are absolutely no redeeming qualities of this individual whatsoever.
Grace was just 37 years old when she died at the hands of her husband. She was an innocent victim of an extraordinary killer, one who maliciously murdered his wife so he could satisfy his selfish primal urges, making Horst Kroner one of the world's most evil killers.
For many centuries, London was a dangerous place.
Oh, it's in the... Okay.
It was a magnet for the very worst.
The murderous doctor. Oh, yeah, we got it.
Jack the Ripper dominated the headlines. But he
Okay,
wasn't
so
the
I
only
don't
killer
know.
around.
It's right there.
Murder was afoot.
The downfall
The
of
fear
John
of death
Christie.
was everywhere. But police had their work cut out to track the culprits down. In this series, we'll be investigating some of the city's most notorious and intriguing crimes.
Female defendant.
Sexual intrigue, vicious murder, as well as the latest technology, fed the nation's insatiable desire for gruesome stories of London's dark side.
If your lordship pleases. Members of the jury, it now becomes my duty to address you for the first time in the defense of this accused man, who, as I have already made quite plain, I hope, is not asking at your hands a verdict of not guilty. That has never been the position at all. He is asking at your hands, under the direction of his lordship, when you have heard all the evidence, that you return a special verdict of guilty of the act charged, but insane at the time. In other words, guilty but insane, as it is called.
John Christie is one of the most notorious serial killers in history and one of the most despicable characters ever to have lived in London. We left our story with Christie breaking down in court at the sentencing of Timothy Evans for the murders which Christie himself had committed. Evans was hanged on the 9th of March, 1950. Christie had killed Evans' wife and child and hidden them in the washhouse at the back of the building they all once shared. Suspecting Evans as the killer, the police searched the property and found the bodies where Christie had left them. He had developed a method of gassing his victims and rendering them unconscious before he would sexually and physically assault them. By 1950, he had killed 3 women and 1 child and watched a man hang for his crimes. Christie would return to married life with his wife Ethel at the already infamous address of 10 Rillington Place. But this house of horror would become even more synonymous with evil as Christie continued his murderous journey. John Christie had escaped detection for his first 2 murders. His 2 victims, Ruth First and Muriel Amelia Eady, lay buried in his back garden and had not been uncovered by the police when they were investigating Timothy Evans. Christie must have felt untouchable. On the 31st of March, 1953, John Christie was apprehended by the police on Putney Bridge. Although on trial for only 1 murder, his other heinous crimes would soon be revealed.
When she was unconscious, I believe. I think I strangled her then.
With what? Do you know?
I think it was a stocking.
Go on.
I think I tried to get down beside her again and attempted to be intimate with her as I strangled her. And I couldn't. My back was so bad, I just could not.
And that was up in her room, was it?
Yes.
And Mrs. Evans was then on the floor?
Yes.
And then you found she was dead?
Yes.
What did you do immediately? Did you move her at all, or did you leave her there?
No, I left her there.
Did Evans come back?
He came back in the evening.
And where was she then?
It was dark.
Was she still in front of the fire?
Yes.
After Timothy Evans' execution on the 9th of March, Christie tried to return to life as it was before.
Christie really went back to normal, as if nothing had happened. It elevated him in the community a little bit, you know, because he'd been in the papers and everything, and he played on that. And he played the victim, basically. Oh, terrible thing happened at Terrington Place. Oh, me and my wife got to get over this. And he also played on his arthritis and everything to get sympathy, you know, and his bad back and everything. But it pretty much went to normal. And but he didn't commit a murder for a while.
He and his wife Ethel continued to dwell in the downstairs flat at 10 Rillington Place, but their lives had been forever altered by the trial, and the neighborhood they lived in was changing dramatically as well.
It was actually pretty heavily racist, really. It was a time in the 50s of no blacks, no Irish, no dogs. West London was mainly very poor white people and black people who just arrived in London from the West Indies. They were the ones who were at the mercy of the slum landlords. Poor accommodation, often dangerous wiring, damp, and people could be evicted very quickly, you know.
The Christies hated their new neighbours. They complained to the authorities of their, quote, dirty habits. And there were frequent arguments with their new landlord who had purchased 10 Rillington Place. The previous owner wanted rid of it following the trial of Timothy Evans.
I think Christie was disturbed because Christie was an archetypal little Englander. He was from the north of England. He was very blunt. Although he was very softly spoken, he was very entrenched in his views. He was a coward and very timid, so he wouldn't have been openly racist to anyone. But I think, like many working class white men of that time, he had racist views.
John Christie, of course, was reluctant to move to another location. He always guarded access to the garden fiercely, for his two undiscovered victims, Ruth First and Muriel Eady, were not buried deeply there. Indeed, the Christies' beloved Irish terrier, Judy, had already dug up a thigh bone, and around the time of the Evans investigation had even uncovered a skull. Christie managed to dispose of that in a blitz-damaged building nearby, but it was clear that any new tenant taking over his flat and garden would inevitably discover the bodies. So John Christie was trapped in a house he could not leave, in a house where he had no control. Months passed, and all Christie's old anxieties and insecurities reasserted themselves more strongly than ever. He saw doctors for anxiety and insomnia, but they could do nothing about the deep and irresistible frustration that burned within him.
Christie, being the character he was and being the man of violence and sexual violence that it was, the relationship between him and his wife deteriorated. It may be that his wife realized what had happened about Timothy Evans being convicted and executed, and that might have been the reason why John Christie actually killed her.
He said she's suffering ill health and she was getting pills. He woke up one night and there she was, and she was sort of gasping and choking, and he didn't like to see her suffer, so he strangled her and put her under the floorboards in the front room.
You hid the body under the floorboards?
Yes.
And did everything you could to prevent everybody from finding it?
I suppose it looks that way, yes.
You knew it was there all the time.
Well, I did not want to be separated from her. That is why I put her there.
What?
Is it quite true what I said?
What did you say?
I said that I did not want to be separated from her. I did not want to lose her. That is why I put her there. She was still in the house.
He strangled her in bed. There wasn't a sexual motive.
I can't hear what this
He really
saying.
got
I have
rid
no
of
idea
Ethel
what's
so
going
that
on,
he could
so I can
murder other
someone
women,
in the house.
you know, because she was the thing holding him back. He told neighbours, conversely, that she'd gone to visit her relatives in Sheffield, and he told the other neighbour that she'd gone to Birmingham.
Christie had quit his job at this point and lied to his neighbours that he had a new job waiting for him in the north, and that Ethel had simply gone on ahead to make arrangements. He must have known the lies would unravel before too long, but that did not matter to him now.
Oh, did he
Christie
like
was able to carry out an even larger killing spree. He had already murdered 5 in his home in Notting Hill, and the victims to come would ensure that 10 Rillington Place would always be one of London's most notorious addresses. John Christie had murdered his wife Ethel in the early hours of Sunday the 14th of December 1952. Ethel lay dead for 2 days until Christie finally disposed of her. He wrapped her body in a blanket, prized up the damp and rotting floorboards, and shoved her into the space below. He had plans to explain her sudden disappearance. 2 days before he murdered his wife of 30 years, she'd written a letter to her sister Lily in Sheffield. She asked Christie to post it. Instead, he kept it. With her now dead, Christie put the rest of his plan into action. He changed the date on her letter and posted it off to Sheffield on the 15th.
Now look at the letter, Exhibit 11. When you wrote that letter, you knew your wife was dead and that you had killed her, didn't you?
Well, I must have done.
Well, let me read it to you. First part of it. Ethel has got me to write her cards for her, as her rheumatism in her fingers is not so good.
Yes.
Of course, that was complete invention, wasn't it?
No, not entirely. She had suffered from rheumatism for quite a long time. Her fingers were rather swollen up.
She had not got rheumatism then because she was dead.
Yes, that is quite true.
The doctor says she will be okay in 2 or 3 days.
Yes.
How could you possibly say that?
I don't know. I was just writing down everything that came into my head, I suppose.
Just writing anything that came into your head.
Yes.
I am rubbing them for her. Her fingers?
Yes. Well, I had been doing that for a number of years for her.
Well, that was meant to convey that you were looking after your wife very kindly, wasn't it?
Yes, it seems that way.
As soon as Ethel can write, perhaps by Saturday, she is going to send a letter.
Yes.
That was intended to deceive, wasn't it?
It seems so.
That was to keep the family quiet, wasn't it?
No, that was not a thought. That was never entering my head.
Because you knew you had done something wrong that you did not want to be found out.
No, I disagree.
He covered it up by writing to her relatives and saying that she had terrible rheumatism, she can't visit you, and she can't write to you. And that worked for a while.
You wonder what was going through John Christie's mind at this time, and you can speculate that actually he was on a downhill spiral, and he must have had some guilty feelings about how he had effectively sent Timothy Evans to his death through execution.
Christie may have been carrying around some sense of guilt about the hanging of Timothy Evans and possibly a modicum of sorrow after the murder of his wife, Ethel. These 2 deaths, for which he was solely responsible, enabled him to kill freely, and 3 more women would fall victim to his desires. But Christie wasn't the only serial killer terrorizing London at this time. The capital was also being plagued by the crimes of John George Haig, the acid bath murderer.
John George Haig was born in 1909. His parents were members of the religious sect, the Plymouth Brethren. And so he had, by most people's standards, a tough upbringing.
His childhood was extremely enclosed and isolated. His father built a big fence around the house. He wasn't allowed much contact. He was a choir boy. He was very controlled.
When he reached 21, he suddenly discovered there was easier ways of making money than working for it. This was when he began getting involved in crooked enterprises with cars and insurance, which would make him money.
He was one of these people who seemed to live in hotels and conduct a life of crime one way or another. I don't think he probably ever paid his hotel bills.
He went to prison for fraud. He showed no violence towards anybody. I think he turned to violence because he was a bit of a megalomaniac and he thought he'd invented the perfect way of killing. He cut out so many risks and not being caught. But what he didn't realize was you have to be careful that you don't kill people that have people who care about them.
He came to notoriety because he was talking to Mrs. Olive Durand Deacon. She was a widow, age 69. He said he was a businessman, and he had this idea for a new kind of artificial lady's fingernail, and she was very interested in that. I think he probably wanted her to put some money into the venture. So he offered to take her down to his business at Crawley so that she could see for herself. Actually, what happened was that he shot her, put her body in a 40-gallon drum of acid.
Haig had already killed 5 people and disposed of their bodies using this method by the time he met Mrs. Olive Durand Deacon. He had murdered a former employer called William McSwan, and then when the parents became concerned about his sudden disappearance, he murdered them too. Having run out of money due to his gambling habit, he then killed another couple and stole their possessions. But the disappearance of Olive Durand Deacon would finally bring his murderous reign to an end.
When Mrs. Durand Deacon was reported missing, the police were called and they interviewed Haig. The police were stunned. Haig said, yes, she did come with me, but you won't find her because I killed her. They were concerned that they wouldn't find any trace of her. But the pathologist noticed an object which he recognized as a human gallstone. And actually, her false teeth survived, and so did her plastic handbag. Even though he had claimed that he could have disposed of the bodies with a guarantee of success, it wasn't so, and there were still these small items that were left from
Anna does
Mrs.
have a
Durand
beard like a
Deacon's
Mediterranean
remains.
man. Oh, fuck
He
you,
became
Thomas.
a megalomaniac.
hell?
He realised he was getting away with it, murder after murder,
I guess it's
and
kind of
nobody was arresting him. And this led to him
think
thinking he
so.
could do anything he wanted.
Not that that helps my case. All right.
John Christie must have had the same sense of invincibility as John George Haig after he'd escaped justice for his crimes and Timothy Evans had been executed. After Christie murdered his wife Ethel a little before Christmas in 1952, he was free to indulge the darkest side of his character.
My babies.
He concocted all sorts of
It's okay.
explanations for his wife's sudden disappearance and began to search for other female victims. He would never have to leave the Darnet Hill area of West London to find them and satisfy his violent sexual urges. He embarked on a murderous path.
I'm gonna pause this. Stop screen share. I couldn't hear it anyway, so I have no idea what's going. Alrighty. Let's see. Alright, so this is the one that I painted yesterday. To me, it feels like earlier today. The one that I painted right now is uploading. I switched mics. Is that better? I hope it is. Now I'm on my nice mic. But I'm just waiting for this eye painting to update. Oh, it says art show, open call for entries. Oh, ooh, I might do this art contest. It's called The Devil Made Me Draw It. Oh, that's weird. Open call for entries. Purchase any art supplies Halloween themed panel from Art Supply Warehouse and enter to participate in The Devil Made Me Draw It. The exhibit will be displayed at our studio and gallery space October 1st through 5th. I might try this.
Yeah, there's this really nice art store down here by where I live called Art, what is it called? Like Art Supply Warehouse. I might try this, this art contest. I never win art contests, though. It makes me so mad. Like when I was a kid, the pizza factory in my hometown, they would do a coloring contest. And so it's, you know, when you're a kid and, oh, if you're not from the US, you might have not done this, but on Thanksgiving, you use your hand to like make a turkey. So you outline your hand and then you have to like color it in like a turkey. And so I would do that and I would literally use my nails. Like I would draw on or I'd push really hard on like the crayon so it would come out as dark as possible. And then I use my nails to like scratch it away. So that way there would be like shading or like transitions when you render it. And so I would do that. I always thought that mine looked good and it would never win. And always the one that won, I would get so mad because I'm like, that one looks like shit. And freaking Peaches, he's like, oh yeah, I won that art contest. And I was like, you motherfucker. So I might try this. I'm gonna, ooh, it says it's up. It says it's up. Okay, let's do a little refresh on my page. Aha. Whoa, look at that. I'm very proud of this one. This one looks great, in my opinion. All right, guys. Everything down into like a minute. You said it out loud. What, said that it looked like shit? I think so. I think I was a little kid. You know, little kids have they don't hold back. I mean, I know I was a little kid, but I know like even my mom would say it though. She'd be like, why did that one win? And my mom would always say, oh, they probably know like the person that picked it and stuff like that. Because my mom would always get mad because she's like, yours is the best one. Like, why didn't yours, win and whatnot? But, oh, my chocolate bar melted. Perfect. I can drink it now. Yeah. I think it was political. I'm going to try it, though. Let's see. I'm interested what the art supplies they're talking about. Oh, is it, like, shaped? Okay. Oh, is it just, like, paintbrushes? Like, what do they want, canvases? Oh, they have an alien-shaped canvas. I'll buy that. Watch, it's probably going to be $1 million fucking dollars. That's the one problem. They probably thought yours was done by an adult. Aw, that's nice. That's nice to say. Well, we had to do it when we were in class. So, I mean, they had to have known that mine wasn't. I wonder if my mom still has any of that. Mm. They released an old Mark Hamill film produced by Roger Corman that was shelved. Oh, cool. Alrighty, look at that, guys. Another eye. You know, it's pretty... I mean, it's not that rare, but I feel like out of all of the eye colors that I've got sent, light brown is probably the rarest one. Because, I mean, this guy had pretty dark eyes. It was lit very well, so I could see it. This gentleman has, like, very dark lighting, but the fact that his eye was still, like, that light, you don't really see light brown eyes. You see dark brown eyes all the time. Like, so this is my best friend Sav's eye. She's got, like, almost black eyes. And I feel like that's the most common when you have brown eyes, like this gentleman, too. But that's my favorite. I love dark, dark, dark eyes that are, like, almost black. I love that. That's what Peach's eyes are like. It's my favorite. But yeah, I'm scrolling through. I'm like, I don't think. Okay, she had like lighter brown eyes. They're still pretty dark. Yeah, these two are. And no, I'd say they're on the darker scale. Like on a scale from like 1 to 10, 10 being black. Yeah, this one probably the lightest of the brown eyes that I've gotten. Mine are like that. Well, did you submit your eyes? Wait, like the black or like the light brown? Okay, I want to look up this art contest real fast because I want to see. Okay. I would do it live on air. Okay, here we go. Share my screen again. So this is the Instagram page for the art store that's kind of by my house. They have great deals. It's the best art store in SoCal, in my opinion. So, okay, open call. Purchase any arts of this brand. Treckle. I can never pronounce anything correct. Halloween themed panel for Art Supply Warehouse and enter to participate. The Devil Made Me Draw. The exhibit will be displayed at our art studio gallery space. I wonder if they have something on their website. Well, when do you have to submit it? Because their gallery space from October 1st to November 5th, but when is it? Oh, look, this person has a picture of an eye. Oh, that person's pretty good. Let me Google it. I can go. Let's Google it. One of my old instructors submitted one of like my old paintings for I don't know, something that had to do with something at the Met, and me and like a few other people like won in that division, but I'm like, that doesn't really count because I didn't submit it. Okay, let's see. Let's pull this up. So this is their website. But I remember I almost she asked me, she's like, well, you can come to like New York and like do this like presentation for watercolors. And I was like, okay. All right, it looks like they're having sales and stuff. They always have good sales around my birthday. And then okay, so does this have any more details, or is this just going to take me to the Instagram? Okay, how to enter. Purchase. Oh, that's cool. Oh, they have cool panels. Okay. All right. Purchase your Halloween edition panel. Okay. I'm going to do this. So let's go over it. .com subject Halloween. Okay, so this is how and Art Supply Warehouse. Should I just paint a ton of fucking eyes on it? Here, I'm gonna do. Well, we'll see what is available when I'm there. Maybe I'll buy one of each and do like multiple submissions. Actually, let's see. Can I? September 21st. That's Savannah's birthday. Okay. Subject Halloween exhibit submission with images of artwork attached. Images should each be labeled with the title of the work. In the body of the email, list the titles of the works along with the medium used and size. Please include your full name and contact information. Must include proof of purchase, receipt or invoice, Tiger Award panel in the email. All art must be appropriate for artists of all ages. Oh, you fuckers. What does that mean? Huh. So that limits it. This is a really cool painting, though. The ladybug spider with a pearl. Okay. All artists will be notified by September 1st, 2021, or 21st, 2022, if work is accepted. All artwork must be dropped off at Art Supply Warehouse by September 26th. All artwork should be ready to hang. Please wrap your art panels in paper, bubble wrap, etc. to prevent any damage to the artwork. Well, if you're an oil painter, it's not going to be dry by then. Aren't these artists that know this? This is me and Sav always joke about how there's like this meme, and it's when you're in the art store and somebody comes up to you asking if you need help, and it's like, I know more about this than you do. No Megan Thee Stallion art. Draw the Addams Family. Do acrylic. I don't have acrylic paint, really. I don't want to paint with acrylics either. I don't really like it. I mean, you know what I would do? I would have to like blow dry it. And And the only problem is when you have, you know what? I have a heat gun somewhere that I've never used, but okay. So moral of the story is I need to go. I'm going to email this to Sav real fast. I'm going to see if she wants to do this with me. Where is her damn? There it is. Oh, I hate it when she sends me disappearing messages. She sent me 10 million messages and they all disappear. Problem with Instagram. Thank you, Big Raj, for the super chat. It is a super sticker with a thumbs up. Okay, let's see. Can I... Do they have a... Oh, whoa. Okay. Ooh. Guys, I could do this. Should I just buy one of each? Add... Continue. Oh, that's cool because it's like big. $34. How? What size are these? Wait, large, L shape. Maybe I should do a smaller one. Oh. Do a potion. That'd be fun. Skeleton would be fun. Continue shopping. Maybe I should just buy him online so that way I don't have to go into the store. The only problem is I would have to wait. Okay. I'm going to assume this is the biggest one. What size is this? $49? Yeah, that's pretty normal. Okay. How big are you? Why won't you tell me what size this is? Quantity available 9. There's only 9? All right, let's just buy it. Continue shopping. Okay. Should I get a coffin? I kind of want this one too. Let's add that one. I like the... Continue. Add that one. Continue. This one is cool because I could paint it like it's a knife and like the reflection of somebody dying in it and do like a 3D. And let's just add. I'm gonna... I don't know. Is there anyone that I don't know. Because if I do like this one, it can be an eye. Like I could have an eye in here with like mist and fog and whatnot and make this pretty cool. Like I could just paint this as if it's, you know, just 3D. This one could be cool. The coffin one could be fun. I just wish that they would have what size it is. What if it's not... There's no size on any of these. Let's see. How big is this one? Oh, I could paint like an actual bat. Okay, let's see. Half an inch. So this is pretty thin. It doesn't have dimensions on it. Like, what the fuck? Who wrote these descriptions? Maybe they have them on their actual website, but they're like, this is smart. They're trying to get you to buy these. Okay, do they have... Is it on their actual website? Will it have it on there? Don't buy it online. I want to buy it online, Sketch, because I do not have a working vehicle right now, and Peaches isn't going to get home until, I think, Monday night or Tuesday night. I can't remember. Okay. So let's see how big these are. Okay, the large one is 11 by 20. Oh, that's not even that big. Are you kidding me? Okay, 20 inches. Maybe I should get the smaller. People always like the bigger ones. You got to see the size personally. Well, that's why I looked it up on their main website. Ooh, let's see. What did this person do? Oh, that's so pretty. Oh, I love that. Look at the rose. That's like creepy, but that's cute. Draw the reflection of Cecil's face. That'll be horrified. That would be pretty funny. Hmm. Well, that's cool. Mm-hmm. Now, here's the problem. There's multiple. I gotta compare it to the main website. 7 by 14. And that's the $19 one. Why is this one 12? Well, I like that example. Let's look at a lot. Let's go look at more of them. Let's see, is there an example of this one? What, this is for like a Ouija board, right? Okay, no one's painted on that. I want to see examples, man. I like the examples. It gives me inspiration. Oh, this is really? That's what you came up with? I feel like the moon one is like what a bunch of house moms that like do DIY stuff would do. This one could be fun. I could just have this one up in my house. No one's bought the jack-o'-lantern. Aw, I'm sorry, dude. Ooh. Here we go. Oh my gosh, it's weird. Oh, that's cool. Okay, let's see. Coffin floater panel. Ooh, what'd they do? Oh, it's got like a frame. Oh, I kind of like the frame. That's smart. Just look at the whole thing. Anyone paint this one? No examples? Come on, fuckers. Leave some damn good reviews. They shouldn't have a pre-cut pumpkin. Ooh, did anyone paint the bat? Yeah, they did. What'd they do to the bat? Oh. That's not bad. Okay. That's weird, but I would just want to paint like Bruce Wayne's eyes in it. Like with the mask. I think that'd be cool. Okay, let's see. No one painted the knife? See, now I'm kind of like, maybe I should pick ones that people aren't painting because then I'll have a better chance. Oh, they have the Ouija ones? Oh, okay. Okay, they bought all the supplies. That doesn't help me, fucker. All right, maybe Sketch is right. Maybe I do have to go in and see these for myself and like pick them out. No one painted the skeleton? Really? Paint something that looks like Ed Gein designed it? Oh, that's fun. I feel like when I get there, they're all going to be sold out because everyone's going there to get, No samples? You fuckers are failing me. This one, I would want to draw a staircase, like down into hell. Like, I feel like that would be fun. Okay, let's see. All sales final, no refunds. Fuck you, bitch. Fuck the no refund shit. I hate that. Oh, that felt so good. I just popped my neck. Okay, maybe I should go in. Where should I put my cart? How much is this going to cost me? You know what? If I go in $141, that's not bad. What did I buy? Coffin. Okay, so I got the crystal ball, the potion. That one I want to make it like an eye floating or something. I don't know. I just want to use your guys' eyes for my projects. They're so cool. Do they sell out of inventory a lot? Yeah. Yeah, it sucks. All right. Well, you know what? I'll go in there and I'm going to buy a couple. God, I don't have any time. Buy the bottle and paint someone trapped in it. I'd have to do this quickly because I'm going to be starting a really big project for work soon on top of doing all the YouTube stuff. So maybe I'll just Uber over there tomorrow. What day is it tomorrow? Or I guess today. What day is it? Oh, that's going to be an expensive ass Uber because that's kind of far. What time do they open? If I go in the morning and check them out, I can also talk to the people. The guy that like is the main manager of this store follows me on Instagram. Paint it while sparring at the boxing gym. Yeah, everyone's telling me not to do it. Not to do that. I'm starting to agree. Oh, it's Sunday? Okay. I'm trying to think, what do I have to do Sunday? I think all I have to do is simcast tomorrow. Okay. What time do they open? You have store hours ready to save. Ooh, are they having a sale this weekend? That might be hell. What time do you open? No? Store hours? Maybe? Yay? Nay? The fuck? No? All right, let's go to Google and find out what time the store opens. Let's see. Okay. Art Supply Warehouse opens at 10 a.m. Okay. 2 p.m. is usually as busy as it gets. All right, well, maybe I'll go there sometime tomorrow. That sucks. It's kind of when I go to sleep. You guys just talking about boxing. I'm drinking my whatchamacallit. Let's see. Do you guys think I can do this? Do you guys think I'll win? I really like this one. I feel like they have that paint, or they have this painting and they photoshopped it on there. Watch. I'm gonna do this and put my heart and soul into it, and it's gonna lose. Is this something you guys would want to watch? Let's see. I want to see if Sav's gonna do it. You can do it. Oh, maybe I'll buy Sav one and then make her do it. I'll tell her she's got to do it with me. Art isn't a contest? Oh, buddy. Yes, it is. I haven't done an art contest in forever. I've done art challenges, but not a contest. I'm just strategizing. I know I'll feel differently once I see it, like up close. Up close and personal. It's Over a month. Oh, they're going to just have it up on their wall for a month. Again, if you have oil paints, like this isn't really going to, I don't know. I feel like they should have announced this earlier. But I never see art contests. I wonder if there's going to be more Halloween. Let me see. Are there more art contests around here? Maybe Laguna is having one. Calls for entry. Ooh. Oh no. I'm looking at like this like Laguna art contest. This one is a political storm. Oh my god. Let me share my screen for you guys. Okay. Oh my god, it's 5 a.m. That's crazy. Okay, political storm online exhibition. Oh, that's stupid. Really? Online exhibition. Tough, often divisive and inflammatory. We can't avoid politics in today's world. Oh, fuck this. I don't even. This is stupid. Let's go back. Artistic independence. What is this one? Online. What the fuck is the point? Las Laguna Gallery is seeking abstract works of a variety of mediums. No, thank you. Deadline October 1st. What is this one? Faraway places in gallery. All right, so this is the only one that matters. Works can be of unique and exotic places that you considered far away. Locations can be real or imagined. Okay, what can you use? Oil, pastel. What about oil pastels? Why is that not on there? Let's see. What is it just is it just regular pastel? Is it new pastel? Is it oil pastel? Who wrote this? All right. Well, that one's a bust. Let's go back to Google. Let's see. No, that's like I think that's like a job application. Is there any, maybe it's this first one. Laguna Prize. What is this for? I'm gonna take this off real fast. It might be like nudity or something. That's the one problem. International Contemporary Award. Oh, you have to be international to apply to this Laguna fucking beach thing? Really? All right, well, let's, Laguna Venice? Oh, that's a bit different. Huh. Let me see. Palette competition, October 3rd. Ooh. Holiday Palette Competition. City of Laguna Beach Holiday Palette Competition is a project of arts. Oh, yeah, share this with you guys. Of Arts Commission, winning artists are provided with a 4-foot by 3-foot wood palette on which to paint original artwork. The completed palettes are temporarily displayed on lamp posts throughout the city during the winter holiday season, when and where the city desires to, for up to 7 years. Or wait, what? You want to have a wooden pallet outside on the coast for 7 years? Dude, that's going to destroy this. What on earth? Who is designing this? Entries will be accepted for artists who reside, work, or exhibit in Laguna Beach and are 18 years or older. Oh, well, I don't live in Laguna Beach. Ah, damn it. Well, that doesn't, whatever. All your information. Oh, that's a banner of the competition. Well, that one's dumb. Let's see. I was looking at these things. Children's palette competition, street performing. Okay. I'm just going to stick with this one Halloween one. Just going to stick with this Halloween one. Ugh. Ugh. Well, I guess I should get back to work. I guess I'm done with the painting, so Let's get back to my, actually share this with Sav real fast. Oh, you guys want to see what my photographer sent me? Let me get you guys ready to see something cool? I need to post it. I feel like this is the wrong photo because I don't know, it looks really warm on my screen. Okay, let's just look at it's me as Siri. Look at my hand. Doesn't that look cool? My eyes are a little off. I need to paint that. He didn't get like the yellow around. But look at that. Do you guys think I look cool? Yeah? You guys like it? No like it? I don't want to leave that up too long. Cool sword, thanks. Let me see. I got some more Harley Quinns. I look fucking crazy. Here we go. Let's see. Harley Quinn. Harley Quinn. Look. Smiling, happy, crazy, psycho bitch. Crazy, psycho. Crazy, psycho. You guys, good cop, bad cop. 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 I look batshit crazy in this one. Funny. Let's see. Stop sharing. Let's see. Psycho face is better. Yeah, I mean, I wanted to have a little bit of different like poses and whatnot. The more I look at this eye, the more I like it. I think it's because it's so different. It's very dramatic. That's just normal, Anna. Fuck you. You fucker. I guess I probably should get back to making videos. I have one that's going to come out in... Well, I release all my videos at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time and noon. Ooh, what is this? What is this? What the fuck? People are stupid. All right. Well, anyways, guys, thank you so much for hanging out and watching. I appreciate it. I have completed 73 eyes. Like, that is freaking crazy. Like, look at this. Watch. Now I need to update this. 72 of 200. It was perfect, and now it's messed up again. Oh well. I guess this is technically... I should count this one because I'm holding an eye. But whatever. Whatever. I have done it. I have painted 73 eyes. People didn't believe in me. People said it was a stupid project. And look at how it's just evolved. I'm happy with it. And I'm happy with the 2 paintings that I painted within 24 hours of each other. I like this row. I like all my rows, but I like this one. Maybe it's just because I just did it. But yeah, everyone, thank you so much for watching. If anyone else is live, go to their channels. I'll have a video coming out at 8 p.m. or 8 a.m., which is in like less than 3 hours from now. And then I'll have another one at noon. But anyways, everyone, thank you so much for hanging out. Thank you so much for being here. And be sure to leave a like and comment on this video. And until next time, I hope you guys all have a great rest of your day morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you are in the world. And may the force be with you because we are really